let's get on with it. Enough of that violin stuff. Though I do like a violin. All right, let's move forward. Let's move on to the first video. We'll have a chit chat in a few mo's, but let's get the crazy stuff done first. The most conspiratorial stuff. Let's get that one done first.
Reprise his role as the Karate Kid, because the new Cobra Kai series, it's a big hit. They're going on to season 6. I wonder if he had to do what the rest of them have to do to get ahead. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, here's just a glimpse from the 80s. And for you youngins out there, here's some more recent. That's the new Bears quarterback. I put money on them being pretty good. So he got me thinking, if he wanted to be part of the club again, I wonder what he had to do. So I went looking, and boy, it didn't take long. Not long at all, actually. In fact, my wife was watching The Housewives of Jersey Shore, and she just happened to pop up. Her name is Rosie, and she plays the gay cousin that randomly appears on the Jersey Shore. And if you're not noticing it already, they share some awfully similar features and mannerisms. And it's not only the features and mannerisms and facial structure and features, but they also just happen to be the exact same height, 5'9" and 5'9". But that's not even the piece de resistance, as I like to say. Oh no, because that comes in the form of bone structure. Because as someone who studied the body for many, many years, I notice things. And when I watch Cobra Kai, I always notice Ralph Macchio's right arm is longer than his left. Enough said. So when Ralph Macchio jumps back into that Karate Kid role for the umpteenth time, don't forget to think how hard he's really worked, just like the guys before him. Or should I say, girls. I would like to end this one by saying this is all speculation in my opinion, of course. Rosie from the Jersey Shore could just be an exact doppelganger with the same height and bone structure and mannerisms and facial features. That happens.
Okay, so we move on to the next video. I'm just going to play most of the most hair-raising conspiratorial stuff that I've come across before we get into the real juicy stuff. Stick around. There's going to be some topics that's going to be very interesting. But let's continue with this guy. I'm beginning to like this guy. He's fun. Tyler Hansen, he's called.
Live, right? Like you've seen my videos on how Robin Williams is Uncle Pappy, but shh, he doesn't want you to know. In fact, there's something else he doesn't want you to know either. But just in case you haven't seen how Uncle Pappy is Robin Williams, let me point out his discoloration right there. Do you see that? That little discoloration that matches that one exactly? Oh, but there's more. Kind of like how these two marks seem to match exactly those two marks on both of their right shoulders. Uncle Pappy, Robin Williams. Now don't worry, Robin says it's gonna be okay, but you should hang on to your seats because what I'm about to show you might just mess you up. Why don't we hear a little more from Uncle Pappy and pay particular attention to who he mentions.
Baby, Teddy Roosevelt is one of the greatest American patriots of all time. Right up there with George Washington and Elvis, bro.
And you might be thinking maybe I'm referencing him mentioning Elvis, a.k.a. Trump, a.k.a. Lucifer, the head of the fallen angels, which they always mention. But no, I was actually referencing Teddy Roosevelt. He talks about him again. Oh, also notice how he counts to 1, 2, not 3 like that in this clip.
The best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing, man. Teddy Roosevelt said this.
There he goes mentioning Teddy Roosevelt again. It's so odd. Well, you know who played Teddy Roosevelt in a movie? Yeah, Robin. He just happened to play him in the movie Night at the Museum. So yes, what I am saying is that Teddy became Robin, became Uncle Pappy, and you might think that's just completely bonkers. But if you hang on just one more minute, Because one thing I continue to say is that these fallen angels that can age reduce and they fake their deaths and change roles, well, they also always bring their spouses with them. And there's Teddy Roosevelt's wife. Her name is Edith Roosevelt. And do you want to see what Robin Williams' wife looks like? That's her right there. And maybe you don't notice it in this picture, but how about that one? Edith Roosevelt, Robin Williams' wife. That's the same person. And you have to be completely blind not to see that, if I'm just being honest. I mean, those two are the same as those two. Now, I've never had a smoking gun come in the form of spouse's looks, but if I ever had one that was going to count, it's this one. But you know, I also got something else for you, because I like to be thorough. I really like to be thorough. So watch how those eyebrows and nose and lips and even cheek indents and eyebrows and everything is in the exact anatomical position, because they're the same entity. I don't know what they are. But Susan Schneider Williams is Edith Kermit Roosevelt. I mean, again, come on. Just like Teddy Roosevelt is Robin Williams, aka now Uncle Pappy. Again, come on. The symmetry is identical. Mustache identical, the chin's identical, and they tell us. I mean, come on, one of the last roles he ever played was as Theodore Roosevelt before he died. Now, I'd like you to keep in mind that finding high enough quality photos from Teddy Roosevelt was a challenging thing, so my smoking guns are limited, but those two seem to be the exact two in relation to where the eye is. Exact. I would say so, especially when you look at their placement right under the corner of the eye and right under the corner of the eye. Now, maybe when you see pictures of Andrew Jackson being compared to you know who, you might not think they're so ridiculous. Or my video of Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th president, being compared to Bryan Cranston, who used to be Phil Hartman, who played Bill Clinton 18 times in SNL. And no, they just happen to have the exact same 1 and 2. There's 2 birthmarks in the exact same spot. Oh, not to mention those 2 under his eye in the exact same spot. And again, here's a better picture. See how there's 2, 1 and 2? Oh, look at that. Walter White has 2 of them as well. What an amazing coincidence. Oh, and you know what Walter White said in Breaking Bad? Presidente Grant, really important man. Because they tell us in the movies. That's how they reveal truth to us. But of course, all this for entertainment purposes. I'm sure they just like the same style.
Okay, before we move on to the next video, it's the final one from this chat for today. So this is for people just joining. I'm just starting off fairly light, fairly heightened conspiratorial, but nonetheless interesting in odd fashion. Before I move on to the next one, I just want to clarify: I do not agree or disagree with this guy. I am just presenting it as somewhat as a weirdly mildly interesting topic where he goes out and finds historical figures to match the appearance of current figures. So by no way with him assessing or analyzing Epstein am I promoting Epstein in any way? As you guys know, I absolutely am revolted at him and his peers and his like. I just wanted to make that distinction.
So maybe you've seen this, and maybe you've even seen this, but I guarantee you I'm about to show you some things that ain't none of you have ever seen. If for some reason you don't know, this is Andrew Jackson, the United States 7th president, and he is on the $20 bill. And well, in case you've been living under a rock, that's Jeffrey Epstein. And well, you know who's tagged right along with him, right? Her? You know her, right? Well, I want to show you something. Because if she is linked together with him, and I keep saying they bring their wives with them, well, I wonder if Andrew Jackson had a wife. And well, yeah, he sure did. Rachel Jackson. And do you see it? Maybe not so much in this picture when she was a little older, but what about this one? What if we compare them and put them together? Boy, their lips and their nose and their eye alignment, everything matches. And well, if this was the only example, I could see how you'd say you're reaching, bro. But did you see my video on how Teddy Roosevelt bears an awful similar resemblance to Robin Williams, who even played him in a movie, who's now Uncle Pappy, by the way? And how their wives looked exactly the same? That's Teddy Roosevelt's wife. That's Robin Williams' wife. Do you see that? That's the same person or entity, or maybe fallen angel, or maybe one of the women that one of the fallen angels mated with. I don't know. But I know one thing. They're the same. Just like these two dots are the exact same as those two dots in the exact same place right under the eye. And if you haven't seen who those belong to, well, that's Robin Williams, who played Teddy Roosevelt. And that's Teddy Roosevelt. And they're not human. They can shapeshift and they can live a lot longer than you and I. And do you want to hear what Robin's co-star from Popeye said about him?
Oil opposite the late great Robin Williams as Popeye.
I loved Robin.
I was sorry when he died.
But listen to what she says next.
I don't think he's dead.
Yeah, you don't think he's dead?
No.
Where do you think he is?
Shape-shifting.
Yeah.
He looks real good in some forms, in other forms he doesn't.
Do you see him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him too. Right there, as Uncle Pappy. In fact, he used to wear a little all-seeing eye necklace until I made a video about it, and now, funnily enough, he doesn't wear it anymore. But that's okay. I'm sure Robin's wife looks just like Teddy's wife, just by coincidence. Kind of like this next one I'm going to show you. Why don't we take it all the way back to the first president, good old George. He wouldn't tell a lie, right? He told his dad he chopped down the cherry tree. Well, maybe that was just a lie instilled in all of us, so we gave some sort of credence to these people actually being honest. And I use the term people very loosely. Well, do you know George was married, right? Good old George and Martha Washington. Here they are together. What a handsome couple. Well, thanks to my subscriber Samantha, we noticed something. We noticed the similarities in George Washington and Glenn Close. And just a few months ago, I did a video on how Glenn is a funny name for a woman. And you might not overly see it, even though I completely do. But why don't we look at Glenn's husband? Here he is here, David Shaw. Does he look familiar to you? What if I do that? Do you see it? Come on. Martha Washington. Glenn Close husband, David Shaw. I mean, you can't even pretend to not see that one. Glenn Close husband, Martha Washington. Oh, but I'm not even done. Here's 25th President William McKinley. And boy, I couldn't help but notice how much he looked like Dumb and Dumber star Jeff Daniels. Dead ringer, in fact. And their faces line up absolutely perfectly. And I also couldn't help but notice this little mark on his cheek. And boy, I wonder if Jeff Daniels has that mark in the exact same spot. Oh, would you look at that? There it is. What a coincidence. And here's William McKinley and his wife, and Jeff Daniels and his wife. Let's take a closer look. Jeff Daniels' wife, William McKinley's wife. And boy, if you ask me, if you just pretty that face up, and she's making a little longer face there. So let's see if the lips and nose and eyes. Yep.
Gosh, it matches.
Oh, and I'm still not done. Like Captain America once said, I can do this all day long. And well, I've just picked out some of the best ones. Here's President Millard Fillmore, and I just couldn't help but notice something. I just happened to notice how he and Alec Baldwin could be the same person. Because they are. They're not human. They're shape-shifting fallen angels who are referred to as stars in the book of Enoch. And when people say, who are they? Well, they are the fallen angels. It's not the 13 families or the yada, 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 BlackRock and Vanguard. No, it's the people you see on the TV every single day. It's no hidden hand. They put it right in plain sight, and they mock that the rest of us can't figure it out, that we're being controlled by a bunch of God-hating, deceiving fallen angels. In my opinion, they're actually being allowed to do it, because I think we're living in a time talked about in Revelation of the Bible where Satan, aka Lucifer, aka Elvis, is Donald Trump. Oh, I'll show you that one. I mean, I'm showing that all presidents used to be someone else, and funny how they have the exact same scarring right there and a million other marks. But Lucifer is allowed with his fallen angels to deceive the nations for a little while. And I'm pretty sure it started right around the time of George Washington, right around the time of our independence, or maybe it was his independence from the bottomless pit. The chain has been broken. You know, the chain as depicted on this one in this Lucifer statue, the one that looks oh so similar to a different statue. Oh, who, by the way, who has a chain at the bottom of her ankle too, and it's broken, if you get my drift. And if the Statue of Liberty is Lucifer and it used to look like this, well then, can you connect the dots? Because they're right there to connect. And if you haven't seen my video on Walter White being Ulysses S. Grant, go watch that. Yeah, all the presidents are alive. All of them. And they're all fallen angels here today.
Okay, so that's the light stuff out of the way. So now let's get to the more kind of serious stuff. So I'm gonna play this video. It is, what's her name again? I don't want to keep a track of all this. It says, what's her name? Camilla. That's it. So Camilla's talking to the Hunt family. Apparently something happened. There's been some murder or something horrific. So she's talking to them. The interview is not really the point of discussion. So they're talking about kind of male on female sexual harassment. Okay. I just want you, I mean, I was shocked when I saw who's sitting to the left of Camilla. I'm going to pause it when that individual is shown, and then we'll have a discussion.
It remains really difficult on a minute by minute basis, but you
you have to try and find the strength in our position to...
Can you see? Can you see? Who's that there? With the grey hair, with the bandy legs. Does anybody recognise the hobgoblin sitting in the middle there? I'll give you a few seconds. I'll come back to this. 9 seconds.
Arm yourself with as many tools as possible that are going to help you get through that next hour, get through that next day. At the risk of embarrassing Amy, she's been my best counsel from the word go. We talk all the time. I used to say I couldn't do it without you, but now I say I can do it with you.
That when I was a teenager, I was attacked on a train. I'd sort of forgotten about it, but I remember at the time being so angry. Somebody I didn't know, I was reading my book, and this man attacked me, and I did fight back.
So what was it, a boy or a man? Which one?
And I got off, I remember getting off the train, and my mother looking at me and saying, why's your hair standing on end, and why's the button, missing from your coat? And
so it was physical.
I've been attacked, but I remember anger, and I was so furious about it, and it sort of lurked for many years. And I think, when all the subject about domestic abuse came up, and suddenly you hear a story like John and Amy's, it all, it's something that I feel very strongly about.
Thank you for sharing that story first, Your Majesty, because that's it takes a lot to share these things, because every woman has a story. And I think in terms of stopping what happened to us, we found a real lack of clear warning signs in Louise and Kyle's relationship. And so I say, if you don't know you're experiencing abuse, you don't feel fear. And so you cannot protect yourself. And that's always the message, is that women should protect themselves, and women shouldn't go out on their own on a train, and women shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. And I think that's why the onus must at some...
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. Let's see. Let me just go back. So nobody's got it. So that is the former Prime Minister. I'm going to have to look up her name. You know me and names. UK female Prime Minister, not Keir Starmer. Let me look. UK female MP. PM, sorry. Theresa May. So that is Theresa May. Now, why is that important? You see, a few years ago, there was a paedophilic scandal involving several, not a few, but several, a significant number, over half, if my memory serves me correctly, or certainly a significant number of MPs that were sitting in the House of Commons were involved in a paedophile scandal. And who was the Home Secretary in charge of those list of names disappearing? Theresa May. She even stood up in Parliament to say that they had lost the names, as if, they couldn't call the witnesses back again, as if they couldn't reinvestigate the entire claim, as if the database, the police database, let alone the digital footprint of all that documentation being transferred from department to police to all this. But, because you're dumb, and because they treat you and me as if we're 2-year-old children with a memory of a goldfish, we are supposed to take the word of a hobgoblin like Theresa May to stand up in Parliament and say, oh, we've lost the names, that's it, that's the end of it, and then everything else continued. And now they're talking about, I don't know anything about the case, I don't know what's right and what's wrong, I'm just going with the narrative here. They're talking about some poor lady who was abused by her spouse. So abuse, right? They're talking about that male on female abuse, and there's Theresa May, the person in charge of the department that lost how many names and possible convictions. I mean, what a joke. What an absolute joke. Right? She should be arrested. She should be arrested. You try turning up. You try turning up to court or turning up to a tribunal or, whatever, or an interview, and say, well, you try giving the excuse, I've lost whatever, you're supposed to have with you. See how far you get. You would be held accountable to the maximum penalty that can be imposed upon you. And this is why I keep saying to everybody, don't vote for anybody. Nobody is trying to represent you in politics. Nobody is honourable enough to deliver what needs to be delivered. They're just there for the votes. They just want to be in Parliament so they can do whatever they want, take bags of money from whoever they want. Because if that wasn't true, and any of these people were genuine, they would declare right here, right now, that unless they deliver their pre-election promises, they would be opening themselves up for prosecution. Not hiding behind parliamentary privilege, which gives them which is a colloquial term to basically say whatever I say and do once I'm elected, you can't say anything to me. I can't be sued. I can't be held accountable. Because that's why she wasn't arrested. That's why they lie in the Commons, because they rely on an ancient rule called parliamentary privilege, which means that they can lie through their teeth and you can do nothing about it. Wake up. What's so difficult about it? I keep watching all these live streams of the cult of Advance UK and the cult of Reform UK, and let alone the communist cult of Labour and whatever apparently a former Conservative member told me that the Tories were, they liked boys more than the women. I'm talking about the men MPs. That's what he said, and he was, quite well to do within the Conservative Party during the David Cameron era. I don't know. I had a cousin who was a member of Parliament. From what I remember, I mean, I was very young. From what I remember, he used to drink a lot. I can't see anything positive that he did in his constituency. I might be wrong. I'm not from his constituency, but from what I understand his constituency being, it's just gone from bad to worse. So that's my point with this. The people who are talking about these crimes, people who are looking after, who are responsible, I should say, for delivering justice on these crimes, are the very people who are part guilty, at least, for those crimes. The entire system is a joke, unfortunately. And as you saw with the title of this live stream, it's Manny Sinder 3.0. What do I mean by that? I don't think people are even trying to make the country better. I don't even think people are trying to find a better way. I think people just want to act like sheep and they just want to be led. And I think people by their very nature are gamblers, and they're willing to gamble their vote to anybody that can emotionally convince them that they are the right person to gamble with their vote. At the moment, it seems to be Nigel Farage that's leading the pack. Obviously, he's going to be leading the pack because people are fed up of the Tories, are fed up of the Labour, and there's nobody else that can convince them. Nobody's convinced by Ben Habib and Advance UK. That's a waste of a vote. Okay, I think Ben Habib is better than Nigel Farage, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a waste of a vote. But my point is, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It does not matter who you vote for. Nothing is going to get done, because unless the person that you vote for has already guaranteed you that they will deliver on their election promises. Anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen. I used to remember thinking Theresa May was all right. She could make a fairly good member of parliament. Boy, was I wrong. But how many of us have gone through that journey a number of times over and over again? Apparently people twice my age haven't learnt that lesson, and they continue to think emotionally, and they do not want to accept guarantees because they don't see any guarantees and nobody's offering any guarantees. Apparently, I'm the only one that actually discusses how about anyone that wants my vote gives me the guarantee and opens themselves up for prosecution if they don't deliver it. I'm the only one on the internet that, you know, and you think I'm asking something bizarre. I'm asking for people to, you know, trust me with their mortgages, you know, as I'm, you know, as I'm flying off on holiday, that won't spend it. You know, it's something crazy like that. I'm not doing anything of that. I'm not asking a penny. I'm not, you know, I'm just giving advice. The only way that is a sure guarantee way of making sure that your vote is not wasted and it's going to be used for the right reasons and for the reasons that you vote for is to ask for a guarantee. But nobody is given it. We have actually even heard somebody stand up to Ben Habib and say, "What guarantees do you give?" And he danced around the subject. You all saw the video. What a wet fish! He danced around the subject. He said, I can't see why anybody would not deliver on their promises." Every single member of parliament that's ever taken their seat in the House of Commons over the last few decades has never delivered on anything. What are you talking about, you wet fish? So they're all U-turners, whether it's Nigel Farage, whether it's Keir Starmer or anybody else. None of them are to be trusted. I mean, do you know what? Each one of these, whether it's Ben Habib, Keir Starmer, whatever, there could be absolutely fantastic people and convince us that they are going to, you know, do everything that needs to be done for us. But we can't trust them anymore. We can't trust any of them. And it's, you know, the only way that they can win our trust is to give us a guarantee, not try to convince us emotionally, because all they do is talk about the subjects with passion that they think their audience cares about. That's all they do. They don't offer an actual solution. They just talk about the subject over and over and over again. And even if they do say, when we get into power, from the very first day, this is what we shall do, like Nigel Farage did in one of the other videos I showed. So even if they say something like that, there is no guarantee they are going to deliver on that. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. There is no guarantee. You do not have a guarantee. Wake up. Open your eyes. But anyway, so Manny Sinder 3.0 is, I've made my peace. I've made my peace with the left wing. I've made my peace with the cult of even things like transgender. You know, I've made my peace with everything, because if people do not want to exercise their brain and they do not want to dig their heels in and demand change and demand a guarantee, then nothing is going to change. It doesn't matter. So I've made my peace. What will happen is what the people will want to happen. Keir Starmer came into power through Labour, with Labour, because more people voted for him than anyone else. There's no point bitching and crying about it, saying that a wet fish called Keir Starmer is now in power. We are the cause of it. We allowed that to happen. Nobody else. Yeah, you can say, well, people were fed up and they didn't want to vote, and just over half the people went out and voted from the UK. It doesn't matter. If the official counting process is correct, and I've been to a counting station, I believe it to be correct, but you never know. If the official counting process is correct, then Britain voted for a wet rag called Keir Starmer. It's as simple as that. And you might be the most anti-war person in the world, but if you vote for any of these parties, guess what? UK is going to go into war. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Nothing. So shut up and sit down. Because you should have done something about it before you voted, before you get all emotional, before they used your favourite character from EastEnders to say, all right, Alfie, vote for Labour. You know, you were like, and you were doing a cheers in, you know, with your butler being like, yeah, you know, I'll get involved. It's too late. It's going to be too late if you vote for Advance UK. It's going to be too late if you vote for Reform. It's going to be too late if you vote for Conservatives, for Labour, for the Green Party, for what? It doesn't matter. It's always going to be too late because the system is not even bothered whoever tries to stand up or does get into power, because we've seen over and over again something happens when they walk through that door after they won their constituency or, you know, won the election. Something happens and they do a U-turn. So what is that? And you think voting for Reform is going to change? We've already seen Nigel Farage do a U-turn. How many U-turns do you need to see? He's lied, you know, about Tommy Robinson on TV. So it's over. So I've made my peace. Whatever the British people want to happen in the majority is going to happen. And people knew about Keir Starmer was head of CPS when the paedophile Jimmy Savile was allowed to go scot-free. People knew that by then, but they still voted for him. So what does that make the people that voted for Labour? What does that make? Those people that voted for Labour, is not the same principle as Muslims continuing to be followers of Muhammad, knowing about his marriage to a child? It's the same principle. I knew about Keir Starmer. Did I vote for Labour? Nope. I didn't. There was nobody else to vote for either. I get it. But nobody gave me guarantees. But nobody's even asking for guarantees now from any politicians. No one is asking. They're not even bothered. Which tells you that nobody is engaging their brain. Nobody actually wants genuine change. And they don't even give it more than 2 minutes. They just want to be emotionally led. People are willing slaves from what I can see. They just want to be emotionally led and be told, that my name is so-and-so and I am the change. I am the change because I am discussing the matters, the subjects that are important to you in a passionate way. So now your emotions are all riled up. And now you think that because I can talk about the things that you are concerned about, you are going to think that I have the answers, that I am the solution. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. They do it two ways. They do it with their words, they do it with their flows of sentences, and they do it with hand gestures. And you've fallen for it each time for years and years. I've fallen for it in the past. That's why I'm aware of it. But anyway. Can't keep going on about it. So, yeah. All right, we move on to the next subject. So, if you don't know about this, there's a case or the situation in America that's taking place right now where Somalian Muslims have been taking government-funded grants or something along those lines. I might be getting my words wrong here, so please do your own research. And they've been accused of taking public tax money and doing whatever they want with it. And apparently one of the major politicians from the Democrat Party, they're Democrats themselves, from the Democrat Party have been involved as well. So we are now going to join this video where some citizen journalists go and pay those fraudulent Somalians a visit.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Hold Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building.
Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the US taxpayers' expense. And in this video we will break down all of the fraud from start to finish, from going to the fraudulent businesses and confronting the people who are making millions of dollars from the government. And we will also be confronting the incompetent government leaders who let this fraud happen. And to make this happen, I met up with a man who's been doing his own investigation for years now, as he has seen the fraud firsthand. His name is David. Let's get into this and be prepared to be shocked. How deep is this fraud here inside of Minnesota?
It is far worse than anybody can imagine. You heard it's 7 to 10 billion and maybe more, and now the numbers have been revised and put out there publicly that they think it's more like 8 billion. How I got involved is that where my office is here in Minneapolis, I'm sort of in the heart of all of this fraud, and I would see these child care centers. I said, well, there aren't any kids there. It's the middle of the day, and all I see are a couple of guys standing out front smoking. And then I'd go by another daycare and I'd see the same thing. I said, well, where do these kids play? And so I started to go online and look, and I said, this place is licensed for 80 children. They had 0 children. Every time I went by there, they never had a single child there. Then I started to see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation, contributing, but they never had a passenger, never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation. So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali-owned. Nobody from the state of Minnesota ever cross-checks to see if any rides were ever actually provided. All they did was write the check.
So right here we have all
So also what we need to remember is they highlighted it at the beginning of the video that some of this money is going to Islamic terrorist groups. I'm just going to forward the video a little bit because we have two more videos to play.
$2.6 million for a daycare center.
You ask whoever you think is doing that, you don't know what you're talking about. So leave.
Tell us what's happening here then.
I said leave.
We're wondering what's happening.
We are not a child care. We are nothing to do with it. We're common people walking. And
yes,
you are,
we're not accusing you. We're asking where the children are at.
Don't ask me anything.
We're not accusing you. We're asking the daycare centers.
I am not going to answer.
Fraud is happening.
So just now I think the fact that
Because
you talk about it as a partisan issue.
Well, because that's what I heard you talk.
Medicaid fraud across the country under Democrats and Republicans. There's fraud within the Trump administration. We have is fraud. Private providers have made government a mark. And so every person running government, Democrats or Republicans, are dealing with the issue of how to keep fraudsters out of our public payment. We're also dealing with veterans. We're dealing.
Okay, so if you want to watch that video, it's on a X channel called Nick Shirley. Yes, Nick. So Nick Shirley, Shirley. The handle is Nick Shirley, but with an extra Y at the end. And so you can go watch that. All right. So before we get to the main part of the main topic, or something that I want to review in detail, I'm just going to play the following video about the photographs of Epstein Island.
Is this blood? What is this? Finding a secret trap door that leads to the ocean on Epstein Island was not what I was expecting to see. I mean, I think I might have found a bloody handprint on Epstein Island. What is this? Here's a picture that Epstein had hanging in one of his rooms, and this appears to be a very older man holding hands with a very young girl. Here we've got Epstein and I believe a child. I believe this is Epstein with a child on his private plane. It looks like they're standing at the podium in the White House press room. Jeffrey Epstein and a victim. I've gone through over 9,000 of the so-called Epstein files, and on today's show, we're going to take a look at some of the most disturbing photos and pieces of evidence that I have personally found in the files relating to Epstein Island, including the statues of disturbing deities, rooms full of masks and dental chairs, artwork with elderly men holding the hands of children, things that don't make sense, and so much more. These are the photos that the mainstream media will not show you, and the stories of the photos so disturbing that most politicians and news anchors don't even want to go there. Anyways, y'all, welcome to the show. My name's Colin Browen, and you're watching / listening to The Conspiracy Files. So real quick before we get into it today, if you want to listen to the show fully uncensored, I implore you, search for The Conspiracy Files wherever you get your podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever. Or if you want to help support the show and the work that I do here along with the team, please consider joining us on Patreon. You can get access to all of the videos completely uncensored, typically early. And yeah, almost all my videos are demonetized or age restricted or restricted in some way or another. So the people who have joined us on Patreon are helping us to
Sorry, I was talking with the mic off then. So annoying when that happens. So I was just saying about this guy was saying that he's demonetized and this, that and the other. I just find it hilarious that how these YouTubers say these things. So blasé, he's got 330,000 subscribers and this video has had 75,000 views. Now I don't know if the video is monetized or not, because as you can see from the top left of the video, I have a premium subscription with YouTube, as I'm sure many of you guys do as well. So there is no adverts, right? So, I mean, I used to turn on a live stream and I used to get 100 people watching. But ever since COVID started and I started warning people about a certain jab, nothing. My own channels don't get alerts for my other channels that I've subscribed to and click the bell icon. That's how badly, shadow banned I am. It's like it don't matter how many people join any of my channels, the same number leave. It's just ridiculous. And I heard from some other video that what that is all about is that people are being unsubscribed without them unsubscribing, and to take their place, robots are being brought in. This is all done under the nose of YouTube, if this theory is true. So eventually this continues until your entire channel is, you could have 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, but they're all bots and you're doing a live stream and nobody's listening to you. Right, because they're all bots. And if my main channel, the Manny Sinder channel, I've got 6,000, 7,000, I can't remember, subscribers. Right, most of them came around COVID. Right, but I can do a live stream every single day. I'm never going to get more than 20 people. I mean, what is all that about? It doesn't even make sense. I used to have 1,400 subscribers on that channel, and I used to do live streams, and I used to get 200-300 people watching. So it doesn't make sense, does it? The whole thing's an absolute sham. I don't know how many people are listening, if the truth be told. How, is it 5 or is it, even less? You just do not know. The whole thing is an absolute scam. And it's just a shame that Donald Trump is not able to sort this out. If I was president, one of the first things I would have sorted out. But anyway, let's carry on listening to this guy. I really am I find men with needless beards a bit weird. I'm just saying.
To continue to fight this fight. But I know you guys are here to see these photos, so I started going through the Epstein file drops. I don't know, about 2 weeks ago when they were really released. I can't remember the date. I know that the 19th, I believe, was kind of the date when they were supposed to have them all out. And where does the investigation stand right now? Well, the Trump administration... There's a lot of disturbing art and photos on Epstein Island that I don't really see people talking about. Now, in that last video, we analyzed some photographs from Epstein's mansion that showed that he had a fascination with animals and skin, and he also had a fascination with predators and prey. And as you can see right here, this is the first photo. I'm trying to get it to, let me zoom in. There we go. This is the first photo from the island. This is a piece of art that is found on the exterior of one of the buildings on Epstein Island. You can see once again this motif of predators. In this case, I believe this is a lion and prey. And I don't know what this is, a gazelle, maybe. And it's just bizarre. People love animal art, and I get that. It's a pretty normal thing, I would say, to have artwork containing or depicting animals in your home or around your property. But with Epstein, you see these things like the skinning of these animals, their flesh being removed, and then you see stuff like this, the predators and the prey, which I think is extremely on the nose. And if you don't think that that was an intentional choice, I don't know what to tell you. And these are just...
Well, yeah, we know from certain accounts that these type of people that were regulars to Epstein enjoy torturing children, sometimes to the point of death. I mean, this is allegedly, I'm just going with the stories that I've come across. And, if you guys do go and watch this video, you'll see bloodied handprints. You'll see, torture seats. I think they're torture seats, but, I've purposely shown the title of the video here, Epstein Photos Too Extreme for Mainstream Media. I'm going to play a little bit more, see if I can skip around. It's been a few days since I watched the video. So, if you do want more details, you can find that after this live stream.
These are just things that, get skipped over, but I think are incredibly interesting. So blue striped on the temple, it's white in between, but yellow and blue, which I just find to be curious. And then, this is disturbing. This appears to be a picture of a very pixelated image of Epstein with a very young girl. I mean, just by looking at this, I'm inclined to say that this girl might be 10 to 12 years old. I definitely have never seen a setup like this in my life. Okay, so we got in one of the rooms here. Another vibrator. Epstein really seemed to love having vibrators. If you remember in the mansion video, there were a bunch of vibrators and sex toys everywhere. This is just in a random drawer. Here's another drawer nearby that's got, as you can see, KY jelly, some Marlboro cigarettes, some Zantac, antacid. I don't know what this is here, but a little bottle of some sort of fluid or substance, a loofah for the shower, Miralax, just some random, I guess, nutrients. Or disappear. Anybody could disappear. So I think it's interesting that there are a number of these spaces that were photographed that are in the file releases, and it appears to just be some sort of storage, but like I said before, things just aren't always what they seem. And then, here you can see this is the entryway to that last room I showed you. It's literally just been busted out of the wall, which I found to be eerie looking. I don't know what this stuff is on the wall. Maybe dirt or something. It's weird. I don't really know. I don't know what to make of all of this, but It is strange that this wall is just busted through. And if you remember in my last video, Epstein loves the color blue. And you're going to see a lot of blue on this island as well, starting with, I guess we can point it out here. Here's the first blue. I don't know where this came from, if this was like the old doorway or if something was painted on here. I don't know what that is, but as you can see, it's blue. So here, this is incredibly interesting to me. This appears to be a trap door on the island. I don't know what room this was in. I can't remember. This is like an industrial room in just one of the off buildings with a bunch of the kind of materials and storage and just industrial kind of machinery in it. But right here, you can see these are clearly like rungs from a ladder, and you pop open the floor right there and boom, this appears to literally be a trap door down. I have no clue where this. Here's some more up close shots of the temple. You've got obviously wiring in here, things that can be plugged in. I don't know if these were found in here. I don't know what the deal is with these, but these appear to be obviously mattresses that I'm assuming were in the temple at the time that the island was raided. Explanation on those is non-existent, but it just looks so weird.
Okay, you get the idea. It goes on and on. It's all very horrific stuff. It's pretty disgusting. I haven't watched the entire video, so I'm not sure exactly what it was. I mean, when I watch things like that, it's a bit upsetting. Let's face it, because children and girls have been mistreated, kidnapped, violated. And, this type of treatment, these people never recover from it. Certainly not fully. Anyway, we should pray for them and hope the very best for them. All right, we're now switching it over to Nazism. A very interesting interview by Andrew Gold. Let's get into it.
If that makes me racist, so be it. I'll wear it proudly. I've had enough. I want everyone gone.
So someone's going to come knock on my door.
It's not personal. It's necessary.
Oh, shut up. What a stupid thing. So he wants to get into power, and he wants to send anyone with skin that's not white back to whatever country their grandparents or parents or whatever they came from. So he wants to send everybody back, and he's so low IQ. He's on camera, not just once, but multiple times in different interviews saying it's not personal. Sending somebody out from their own country is not personal. What? It's not personal. It's just Nazism.
That will not work.
To find out who would have to be removed, the easiest way to do this is medical records.
This is mental.
I don't believe.
See, who else used medical records? Nazis. And isn't it funny? Why is it racism and poverty always goes hand in hand? I mean, he's come to an interview, one of the biggest podcasts on YouTube, and he's wearing a sweater. Like, what is it about racism and poverty? Why do they always go hand in hand? Is it because, well, it must be because they're so angry at the world, so angry at making poor decisions, that they have to take that anger out on somebody, and you might well do it with somebody who's got the most extreme suntan within 10 mile radius of you. Is that the thinking?
I don't believe you're European. I think you're Jewish.
But I'm not going to Israel.
Yeah, if I had power, mate, you would be.
God.
You shake your leg and get aggressive when we talk about Jews being European. I'm not shaking my leg and just giving you...
I just have a twitch.
The twitch only comes up when Jews are mentioned. We can move on to another topic if you want to.
I can envision millions of people being thrown onto planes and deported from my country.
I think Tommy Robinson will fight against that.
Tommy Robinson will do, because he's a traitor. Tommy Robinson has loads of foreign friends. He promotes multiculturalism. He's a Zionist piece of shit.
Do you have any room in your mind for that you might be wrong?
No.
See, that's the sign of an ideologue.
He's a very good interview, I must admit.
Can you do me a favour?
No.
If you get value from
this
on the right, I don't even know if it's a civil war going on between, what is it? You can explain civil nationalism and ethno-nationalism. What are these terms?
So ethno-nationalism is...
were built by a bunch of people of similar ethnicities, right? But it is true that they are multiple ethnicities, right? English. We are talking about.
So let me just share something with you. It's so important that British white people distance themselves from lunacy such as this guy. His name's Steve Laws, I think, or Steve Laws, whatever. Because once you declare yourself racist, and thankfully nearly every single British person is not racist, which is a great thing. So even if you go back on your own ancestry and become a Nazi like this chap here, once you declare yourself, you are just essentially handing the keys to the country to the globalists, because once a significant portion of British white people are declared as racist, you're basically giving the authorities to treat everybody in any way they want. And they don't even need that authority. They're already treating everybody, no matter what skin color they have, apart from, it would seem, the Muslim community or illegal migrants, some would argue. You know, you would literally be giving the very people that you want to take your country back from a free rein to treat the population of the UK however you want, because once they have the moral high ground with their weaponry, including the media and false flags and all these other things that may be true, may not be true, but whatever it is, you're giving, it's like giving a thief keys to your house. So all I'm saying is, if you're white, if you've got at least 2 brain cells, use them. Don't be deployed and be pushed into becoming a racist, because you will be fast forwarding the decline of our country into a speed that you have no idea how fast that will go. You will be literally destroying the country.
We are talking about several things. And with Scottish, it's like the Scots and the Celts and the Vikings and stuff.
We are a distinct ethnic group that has been built up over time. So over 1,000 years, these distinct groups that have formed together, people to go to. This is our final battleground. You guys have somewhere else to go. We do not.
Is that where you would send me, Israel?
Yeah.
What if Israel didn't want me?
They would take you. You've got Jewish ethnicity.
What if I don't want to go to Israel?
That's not really your choice, unfortunately, buddy. If I'm in a position of power where I can control the immigration situation in the country, it's not a choice for you, unfortunately. You may not like the outcome, but that's what I would do, yes.
And look, I think this has to be a place where people can say what they want to say. I mean, that's the whole point of Heretics. It's the whole point of YouTube. It's the whole point of all of this. Conversations that are not being had on TV. So, fair play to you for saying it. I don't want to go. I don't speak Hebrew. I don't know that culture. I've been there a couple of times to visit over the years, as many not Jewish people have as well. But I never really considered myself anything other than English from a young age.
So if you had to choose between your Jewish ethnic group and the English ethnic group, who would you choose?
I don't believe in caring about ethnic groups. I would just choose England as a country. If we were talking about England versus Israel, I would choose England every time.
So what about if all of the Jews that was in the UK started defending Israel in the UK? Would you condemn them?
Yeah.
So you're in a distinct group. That still doesn't change my opinion that I would remove you from the country.
So he asked him all these questions. Who do you back? Who do you support? And he's given all the right answers, saying, I am pro-England. Because it still doesn't change my opinion. Yes, because your opinion is based on skin colour, ethnicity, and whatever the Nazis said, which is primarily anti-Jew. And you have already labelled Andrew as Jewish. So, the guy is so cold. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the amount of comments underneath this video, I'll tell you, I'll go through them. I'm not even sure if they're real people or bots, but we'll go through them.
in the country, and it's not personal. In my opinion, it's necessary. And no disrespect, but some of your people are. I want England to belong to the English. Okay.
You're living in the past, man.
No, I'm not living in the
gone.
past.
That's gone.
England's not gone. England will.
So, it's just ridiculous. England belongs to the globalists. The globalists control the politicians. The globalists control every single political party. The globalists are the ones that control politicians, that made the laws that allowed even members of the most extreme Islamic groups and countries to come over. It's the globalists and the politicians and the police all working in unison that allowed grooming gangs to carry on doing what they have been doing. But you think that somehow you and your followers will be able to get into power by having all the traits of a Nazi and carry on doing what? It's just so bizarre. Like nobody sat down with this guy and said, listen mate, you haven't even thought this through.
We'll thrive. We will get our country back.
But how?
People like you leaving.
So someone's going to come knock on my door?
No, you'll get a letter.
I'll get a letter.
Yeah, give you time to get your affairs in order, and then you'll be deported.
How much time? I've got lots of stuff to get in.
Well, this is open
a few
to
weeks.
Personally, I would give you. It would be in stages. I wouldn't just go. Everyone's going at one time. I would start with the illegal immigrants, and then I'll go on to the foreign criminals. Ease it into the public so they can get used to deportations. Then you go for the immigrants that are not working. Then you go for the immigrants that are subverting institutions and so forth. And then you go for mandatory deportations, and you do it in a staged process. How long that takes, I'm open to negotiations. But ultimately,
I'm open to negotiation. He's saying he's so far removed from reality. He's using, what's that called, where if you act the role, then you will one day be fast teleported into that role. He's using mind tricks on himself.
millions have to leave my country, or my people are going to be replaced in our homeland. That's my line. I don't care who you are. Anyone who's foreign has to go, and I'm going to keep that line until we get our country back. You may say that this is unreasonable and this is harsh, and the people may fight against it. But if you look at the likes of Bob Villan, let's say that mixed race fella that was shouting, "Heard you want your country back." Most people would never dream of calling for deportations of mixed race people and so forth, right? It's not their average go-to British person. I would, but it's not the average British person's position. But the moment he was saying, "I heard you want your country back," everyone's like, "Deport this man, get him out of my country." So when they're threatened and they realise that their future is at stake, and this person's putting them in a position where they feel like they've got something to lose, people react very differently to how they think they would in person.
Right.
So in other words, he's relying on the concept that pro-Islamic individuals are going to do increasingly more radical stuff, as they are doing, as like a script, and that in turn will make you angry and become a Nazi. That is what all this is based on.
I think you're just fighting my corner here, because I'm saying based on someone's behaviour and actions, we decide whether or not they get to stay in the country. So I agree with you because of what that Bob Villan guy said.
I don't base someone on their actions.
You
and
just
behaviour.
said because of what he said.
No,
everyone was on board.
Yeah,
not because he's mixed race.
No, but that's why they was on board. I'm not saying that's the position I would take. I'm saying that's the position that the public would. You're misinterpreting more than skin colour. It's down to diet, to IQ, to behaviour, to all sorts of factors. So just pinpointing it and saying, "Oh, it's because they're black." Of course, they are black.
Did you hear
more than
that?
Skin colour. It's more than skin.
Did you guys hear that? So he says skin color, IQ, and a whole lot. So unless I'm mishearing, he's associating. We'll rewind it a little bit, but he seems to be associating skin color to IQ, as in white skin is higher IQ. Look, I don't have the facts and figures of the IQ test, okay? And we need to give him his free speech. But I'm just pointing it out that is something that he's relying on.
More than skin colour. It's down to diet, to IQ, to behaviour, to all sorts of factors. So just pinpointing it and saying, "Oh, it's because they're black." Of course, they are black, but they're also foreign. I don't want Albanians here. They're not black. They're not brown. No, because Albanians come over, they sell drugs, they create gangs, they cause violence.
Yeah.
Just like when the Muslims come over, they create problems, they attack people, they create rape gangs and so forth. When the Jews come over, they get involved in organisations, they call for more immigration, they subvert institutions, and they push their own as high as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Because all of these groups have self-interest, and you can't blame that. I have self-interest. My interest is the English people, and my priority is the English people. All of these foreigners have the same interest, but for their own.
Yeah.
That person's not getting away with it because the community came out and said, no, actually, mate.
Yeah, but these people haven't committed crimes.
Yeah,
That's
but they
the crime.
have. The crime is that they're in our country.
But they didn't commit a crime by coming into this country, did they? That's
They
you're
are
talking
victims,
about
they're
a
victims of
moral
immigration.
crime.
Yeah, they're victims of immigration by being here and being promised a land and a future that's not actually available to them. The way that the politics is changing in this country, there is going to be mass deportations, there is going to be remigration. Whether it goes as far as I want it or not, that's open to discussion.
No, it definitely won't. It's not open to discussion.
You can't say that. You physically can't say that.
I can
You can't
say it.
How can you
Of course
say
I can
that?
say it, because
100 years ago, they would say there was no such place as Israel, and it's never going to go. Then you're never going to have an Israel. You're never going to have a land, and then all of a sudden, now there's an Israel. That was never going to happen. Now you've got it. To say that I can't take my country back is nonsense.
Yeah.
You're only saying it because you've got skin in the game.
That's
and
not
you've got
true at all.
self-interest.
That's not true at all.
Well,
I
here's
think,
the thing.
Why is Tommy Robinson saying it?
Because Tommy Robinson has loads of foreign friends. He promotes multiculturalism. He's a Zionist piece of shit. And that's why he promotes all of that.
What's wrong with Zionism if you're also pro the idea of a country?
Because
having
he's
its own
not
ethnicity?
pro-England, he's pro-Israel. He's pro-Israel before pro-England. His priorities are Israel.
What a load of rubbish. How can you say Tommy Robinson is first pro-Israel than England? That's lunacy.
Before England.
I don't think that's true.
I do.
Why do you think that's true?
Because that's all of his interests.
Well, that's one of his many
He's
interests.
paid to do that as well. He's paid to subvert the movement and
No,
lead
he's not.
people to nowhere. How can you prove that?
How can you prove he is paid?
Because I just look at his actions. I look
See,
at
this
how
is the
wealthy he
problem.
is. Here's the thing. He's a wealthy man living in
Yeah.
Spain who's made an awful lot of money
He's not a
out
wealthy
of
man.
achieving nothing.
He's not a wealthy man.
He's a wealthy man.
No, he's not. Why do you think he's a wealthy man? Do you have evidence of that?
What, because he hasn't got all of his assets in his own name?
Look, Steve,
Look, mate,
Steve,
honestly,
this is the crux of your ideology. We spoke of half an hour, right? I've got to it, and I think that what you've said about Tommy, I think that's ultimately it. You're looking for patterns, and you're not right.
Exactly. So the reason why I stopped it on there, on that particular point, because I just wanted to show everybody that he's probably the best speaker in his little community, in his little group, and people probably listen to him saying, "Yes, Steve, yes, because he's discussing passionately, like I said at the beginning of the video, just like a typical politician, he's discussing passionately the topics that his followers or his circles are interested in, are bothered about, essentially race-based racism. And his so-called solution is like Andrew is pointing out, ill thought of solutions of sending out letters to people, including someone like me, right? And saying you going home, like, where's home? I am home, mate. He's like, no, we don't want you coming here. So where did your great grandparents come from? Oh, it's come from a Punjab. Well, you're going there. I'm like, he's so stupid. It's like, you think all these, like, I'm British, I've got a British passport. It's like, I'll be a foreigner in India. You think India's just going to turn around and say, oh yeah, we'll give so and so a passport, citizenship? You're like, where are you going to send them? You need all these documentation in place before you can even sometimes book an airline ticket. It's so low IQ, and I'm just fearful that, okay, he's going to capture the lowest of the low IQ, but I'm just fearful that this guy might just convince, even momentarily, some people that think it's a good idea to come out and say, yes, we stand with Nazi British Party or something, and that's it. Then the system wins. Now, everyone's labelled as a Nazi, and the draconian system gets to grow. DC, how you doing?
Hello, Manny. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, Happy New Year and Christmas and all that. So here was me sitting, relaxing, and then I see this guy, and I got so much to say on this chap. Honestly,
go for it. Unleash.
You nailed it by
Unleash.
saying he's low IQ. The reading I get off this guy is Somebody has put these ideas in his head, knowing that he's going to run with them. He's very passionate about them, but he has zero real understanding of any of that stuff. And actually, I would go as far as saying, I don't think he will believe these things in a year's time. Someone else will catch his ear and tell him something else, and he'll run off with that.
Well, I don't know about that. He does come across to me as an out and out, long time Nazi and that type of thing. He's clearly
You've absolutely pushed the right button there. So the stuff that the things that he's suggesting as his own suggestions, these are things that have already been achieved or done in history before. And where have we seen this stuff before? World War II in Nazi Germany. This is stuff that the Nazis were doing. They claimed they were going to be nice and send letters out, and they were going to file everyone out in a nice, polite way. It just didn't happen that way. And I know that's where he's getting these ideas from. So what I think is somebody is in this guy's ear who is an intelligent Nazi, and he's getting stooged out to say these things in place of them. So when he gets, taken out by popular acclaim or locked up if he says anything too stupid, there's another 100 idiots just like him that will take his place. So somebody is behind him. He doesn't understand. I mean, the things that he's saying, they're actually not arguments. They're closing statements. I'm sure if there was more time, Andrew Gold would press him on the details. What is his actual method of getting this stuff to be done? And I doubt he could actually make it happen, even logically, because all he is depending on is that closing statement. This is what I want. This is when I want it done. This is what it's going to look like. And it's just fantasy. And what I think it is he is a scared little boy deep down. He's terrified that the country's going to implode and he's going to suffer violence and have all his stuff nicked. And it's going to be those nasty Jews and blacks that did all the damage.
Yeah, you can.
But it is absolutely ridiculous.
But racism is born from fear and ignorance anyway, right? Whether they see it or not. Because that's exactly what these things are. But he's from Kent, and over my lifetime I've come across so many hardcore racists from Kent. I don't know what goes on in Kent. I don't know what type of schooling these people have had or what's been going on in their life, but there seems to be a large congregation of racists in Kent.
Yeah, I would question as well how he's so familiar with the movements of Albanian and Romanian drug dealers. Like, there's something to that, but I wonder how many of these guys he knows as a customer. Like, you can see he's tweaking. I mean, the guy pointed out, as soon as he gets to talk about a subject like Jews or blacks, his leg starts twitching, he starts getting angry, and not being able to regulate your emotions is a really obvious signal that you are, you're not yourself, you're kind of not sober. And that's the impression I get from this guy. So he's ranting on about how foreigners, those nasty evil blacks, Romanians and Jews, are bringing drugs and crime into the country. But then you think, well, let's have a look at this guy's criminal record. Has he ever committed a crime before? Has he ever done drugs before? I think the answer to the both of those things, without knowing any better, is going to be yes.
And I think I'm kind of annoyed at because this is the second interview that he's been on that I've watched. The other one was with I can't remember the guy's name now, Tommy Robinson's friend, Liam Tuff. Now, and both of them are just asking all these questions. So who would go out, who would stay, and this and the other. And it's like, the guy is a racist. It doesn't matter. It all comes down to skin color. He says that so many times over and over in the interview, but it's almost as if they just want this prolonged interview podcast to go on. So they, it's just like, just wrap it up. Just, we know what he says. He says he doesn't mind being called a racist at the beginning of the podcast. So let's just get there. But of course, everybody minds being racist. Who would want to be labelled a racist? He's just, like you say, he's just cannon fodder for some movement that's taking place. But nobody is even willing to attend a demonstration by these guys. And it's so sad. And my fear is simple, DC. My fear is the more people they get behind them, and at the moment they haven't got hardly any. But should it ever grow, and I don't think it will, it's only going to grow because of people like Andrew Gold and Liam Tufts giving these guys airtime, right? And if all these podcasts were actually against the system, or it was sharing some information that the system did not want the people to come across, they would be shadow banned like the rest of us. So it makes you think, like, how come these interviews and these type of things being promoted so vigorously by the algorithm?
Yeah, I think guys like him, not Andrew Gold, the racist guy. I think he's a guy that sits at home, doesn't have any family or friends, doesn't speak to anyone regularly, and he's spending all that time on his own with his own thoughts.
He lives with his family. He lives with his family. He does have family.
Well, it seems to me like if he had anyone reasonable to discuss these things out with, that conversation would have gone very, very differently. But it's almost like in his head, the people he's listening to who are instructing him are Facebook accounts of people he doesn't really know. For all he knows, they could be like one guy with 10 accounts giving him all this fake information to brainwash him, radicalize him into that racist view. But I'll go back to the point I made before. When he's been pushed on the point, the few times when he's been pushed on details, he doesn't have any. He just goes back to these platitudes of race and ethnicity and, the threat of England falling apart. And, saying that Tommy Robinson is a traitor, that just boggled my mind. It's like, say what you like about Tommy Robinson, but that guy's done more for real English nationalism, and British unity than virtually anybody. So to say that that guy's a traitor and then suggest we should send people letters to get rid of everyone who's not white and English, it makes no sense. And he said as well, he would do it lawfully. He actually said the words, he would do it lawfully. It's like, well, the version of law that we have isn't English. Having a judiciary is not English. All the things that he's going to need and rely on to have that happen is not English. I mean, our language is Germanic and Latin. So if he wants to give back everything that's not pure English, brother, you're going to be sat in a cave in silence on your own. That's just the bottom line, isn't it? Yeah, I think this guy's been radicalized. So hopefully
he has been radicalized. I mean, the Constitution, the British Constitution, which is still primary law in this land. So the Constitution prevents anything like this ever happening. So in order for him to overturn the Constitution, he would have to get rid of the monarchy. He would have to get rid of democracy. He would have to do. So it literally is Nazism. Right, because if you were born in this country, then the Constitution is yours. Right, if you're British, the Constitution is yours, and all the things that he's discussing, it can't even be done. So the whole concept of what he's trying to do is so bizarre, and of course it comes from watching TV programs, documentaries like the one from was it Kenya or Zimbabwe or some African country in the 70s where, the Indians were kicked out because the British took the Indians there to be the middle class of whatever that country was. Can't remember it now. And they were kicked out, and most of them came to the UK. So they watch documentaries like that, and they watch, their hero Hitler carry out the massacres he's did with against the Jews. And they come to this conclusion, well, we could have a milder version of that, but the principle is the same. It's like you say.
I've got to say, the worst thing about that guy's whole statement, though, it's all completely deconstructive. Like, for me, the reason why England means something to me, the reason why my life means something to me is I have a purpose, I have a goal, something to work towards and build. He hasn't said any of that. His whole goal is to deconstruct what we have. Get rid of people, take away. It's like, what you're going to be left with at the end is emptiness. You're still not going to have a life, still not going to have a purpose. So it's almost like he's looking across at other people.
That is his purpose, though. That is his purpose. Because if you that is his purpose. Because he.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
because he said with the words that in my mind I have seen a vision, or I can't remember what he worded it. So that's exactly the terminology. People that have seen their vision or seen their purpose.
Let's say self-elected Emperor Ginger over here gets his own way and he gets everyone out of the country. Then what? That's what I mean. He doesn't have a purpose past that. Once that's done, he doesn't have a purpose of his own. Someone told him that, and he's going along with it. once it's done, he's still going to be an empty fellow with nothing to do. I think that's the real problem with him, is he doesn't have anything to do, and he's got his head in this Nazi radicalization, and now he's adopted it as his purpose because he doesn't actually have anything outside of that as his purpose. You know, it's like me. I'm a Christian. My purpose is a Christian purpose, and whether I've got blacks and Jews and Germans and Romanians or not, it doesn't change my purpose. That's what I live for. He doesn't have anything to live for apart from this weird radicalization. And I really feel like that is a sign of a decaying mind. So whether it's drugs or, you know, just low IQ, I don't know. But I mean, this guy needs to get something to do outside of sitting on the internet and reading radicalization blogs and weird videos and stuff.
So
I mean, probably end up in jail, to be fair.
Yeah, clearly he's going to end up in jail, and then all his family suffer, which is unfortunate. So Banksy said, look into force doctrine. So I've just Googled that. So force doctrine refers to established principles guiding the application of force, particularly in military and law enforcement, defining how, when and why force is used, from rules for self-defense to strategies like shock and awe. But it can also describe broader societal beliefs about power dynamics, such as the idea that physical strength dictates rights. In a military context, it is a codified body of knowledge for effective action, which socially it might describe how power is maintained or seized through coercion. Well, I don't know what that exactly has to do with what we're saying here.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same thing.
Because
I get where he's going with this. I get why he's saying that. I think he's trying to suggest that this Nazi guy is basically boiling everything down to a force doctrine. So his end result is, if we don't get rid of these guys, they're going to apply force doctrine to us. And he did mention Jews and he did mention blacks and everything else. But I don't really think that's realistic. I don't actually think that's what's happening. Perhaps that's why he's so trauma bonded to this idea that purifying the country by chucking out everyone that's not 100% English is a good idea, when it's clearly going to be a terrible idea. I mean, the economy would collapse immediately. Then when he needs to go to hospital, he's going to have no doctors. You know, the roads are going to fall apart. The guy just hasn't thought it through at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, he does cover that in the interview, and he says, well, we should be investing in our own doctors and things like that. But like I said, the whole interview is not very fresh in my mind. It's been a few days since I've watched it. But the thing is, look, from a Christian perspective, DC, what can you share? How does God treat racist people? I mean, am I correct in thinking Moses was married to an African? Is that right? Did somebody tell me that? Are you aware of that being right or wrong? I mean, what is God's view on different
Well, I can't
races?
speak for whether Moses was married to an African, and they're probably middle. Canaan is like middle, what is now Arabian Peninsula, so they would have been kind of darker skin. Don't know whether they would have been African, but I mean, it doesn't really matter in terms of this guy. How does God treat someone like that? Well, what he'll tend to do, and this is how it's written in the Bible, is he'll pull his skirt up over his head and embarrass him in front of everyone with his own crappy life. So when he's going around saying how great the English are, I think what's going to happen is when he gets arrested, it's going to be white English guys that put him in a cell and throw the key away. They're just going to be laughing at him. I mean, wonder how he'll feel about them then when they've put him in jail and told him he's an idiot. And then the lawyer that comes in to serve him will probably be an Arab or a black guy or something like that.
Banksy saying all your nonsense about rights and consternation means nothing. I think military rules and regulation does not apply to their own population. Banksy, you should know that by now. It doesn't apply. The rule of law for the home population stays and is above military doctrine. So I'm afraid it's you that's not sure what they're talking about. There's no way the British military can subvert anything other than extreme measures, such as a nuclear bombing or war and stuff like that. But again, the military is controlled by the globalists and the government anyway, so it's not controlled by the Nazis, so that's kind of completely irrelevant.
Yeah, I've got to say this guy is such an oddball. I've never come across anyone who's that like stuck in his head on these ideas with virtually no reasoning behind it. So it'd be more useful if he'd have had some reasons, then we could pick away at those reasons and say this and this is wrong. But he just presented his final, his closing argument, and he didn't supply any logic for it.
So on that subject, we might go back to that video, but on that subject, this guy. I've watched some of the videos of this guy, but I didn't realize how racist this guy comes across. Now you just watch his analysis of the video we've been watching.
Hey guys, so you know that I've got no real problem with Andrew Gold. I've covered a few of his interviews on this channel. I've always gave him a fair lick. I've never got on his back. Even though he describes himself as Jewish first, he's not really bothered about the demographic replacement in our country. I've always treated him as just a normal person doing an interview, gave him the benefit of the doubt. But this interview's pretty bad. It's just a bad interview. It starts off with one of the worst intros to a supposedly impartial interview that I've ever seen. It's just a snap cut of making this gentleman, what's he called? I don't know him, by the way. I've never seen this guy before. And he's with Steve Laws, right? So he's interviewing Steve Laws. He makes him look like some kind of psychopath within the first 55 seconds. Just have a look for yourselves, okay? I don't want to lead you too much like Andrew's trying to lead you in this interview.
Are you a racist?
If that makes me racist, so be it. I wear it proudly. I've had enough. I want everyone gone.
So someone's going to come knock on my door.
It's not personal. It's necessary.
That will not work.
To find out who would have to be removed, the easiest way to do this is medical records.
This is mental.
I don't believe you're European. I think you're Jewish.
But I'm not going to Israel.
Yeah, if I had...
Jewish in big bold letters there, like that's, you're not allowed to mention that, are you?
Mate, you would be.
You shake your leg and get aggressive when we talk about Jews being European. I'm not shaking my leg and just giving you...
That's kind of weird, right? That's kind of weird to mention that, to point that out in the middle of an interview. Why would you do that unless you're trying to colour someone's perception?
Have a twitch.
The twitch only comes up when Jews are mentioned. We can move on to another topic if you want to.
I can envision millions of people being thrown onto planes and deported from my country.
I think Tommy Robinson will fight against that.
Tommy Robinson will do because he's a traitor. Tommy Robinson has loads of foreign friends. He promotes multiculturalism. He's a Zionist piece of shit.
Do you have any room in your mind for that you might be wrong?
No.
See, that's the sign of an ideologue.
Well, you could just say he's a racist and just get it over with. Oh, you did in the title. The UK's biggest racist. What a nice title for an interview. Well done. And then he does something that he's never done that I know of, pre-interview, pre-video before. He comes out and he frames what you're about to see. He's talking directly to the camera and he says, well, I made some mistakes, but this is one of the first times I'm ever going to fact check people for the things that they say, because some things were said and they were just plain wrong. Taking the moral high ground, trying to get you on his side so that he's actually doing the good thing. He's trying to be that guy that's going to give you the truth. That's going to lead you to think a certain way. Don't think the wrong way. Listen to this.
I've never done this before, but I've taken a leaf out of Elon Musk's book and included several notes throughout this episode to clarify moments that are inaccurate or misleading.
Why would you do it on this one, though? Why this interview? Why this one? Is it because he's talking about the Jews?
Podcast interviews are a unique and engaging way to bring important societal issues into the public conversation, but they lack real-time fact-checking. That means mistakes can slip through, including some I made here. Like me, many of my viewers are rightly concerned about the state of the country and its lack of direction and identity. My guiding principle, however, remains the same. I judge people on the content of their character, not their immutable characteristics.
So I'm just going to stop there. So Dwayne Jones is saying, Manny, you know what a black American priest said about the Anglo-Saxons? He said that the Anglo-Saxon whites are a pretty reserved bunch and not to mistake this reserved demeanour for cowardice. When they turn, you won't know what hit you. And then he said, and this black American church priest who is pretty old and knows a thing or two about them. Ain't that right, Banksy? Banksy knows. And they will industrialize your ... And this is another thing, like, so you think every single British person has this demon inside of them, and if they want to, they can switch that demon on, and they'll turn into Nazis and start culling everyone that have brown skin. I mean, listen to this. Is your hopeful thinking. This is not what's reality. Everybody has a switch. Everybody is capable of turning and becoming a worse person. It's like it's nothing special to any race. This is just your wishful thinking that this could happen. I think. What about? I mean, you think? Do you think that people who had members of their family fight and die in a war against the Nazis are going to become the Nazis? Do you really think that's going to happen? Or do you think the only people that would make that decision would be pussies, racists and complete ignorant fools, and go like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, all right, we did fight the Nazis in World War II, but that's all right. We'll become the Nazis now, and we'll get rid of all the blah blah. But I mean, come on. It's like you've got to think. You don't just think with your emotions. Otherwise, you might as well move to Iran, and you might as well, put one of those burqas on your head and start going around thinking that the Hamatuli Eye, whatever his frigging name is the be all or end all. It's like this is ridiculous.
Well, I think the impression I'm getting from people in the chat as well as these guys on the videos is everyone's itching for an ethno-centered brawl in the street, but they don't want to be the one that gets blamed for it. I don't really know the guy that well, but this Banksy chap in the chat and the Dwayne Jones, the things they're saying are kind of hinting towards that without being too overt about it. That kind of super racist guy was really overt about it. And now this Dino Bane dude, like, he's just obsessed with Jews and racism and, the whole Zionist mechanic. It all just says these are just rabble racists that want to get the fight started, but they don't want to take the blame for it.
There's my comment there. Look, I said Andrew is too intelligent for this low IQ stuff. Racists never prosper because hatred is too dark. Right?
I still don't understand that none of them have made a compelling case. Like, for me, there's a reason why I say Islam should be removed from this country and banned. It's not just because I don't like them. It's not just because they got a color or a culture that I don't like. It's because they've brought a doctrine-created problem that they're not willing to change, that is against our law and our culture. So I'm saying we should get rid of them. But I'm saying get rid of them because of that particular criminal set of behaviors. I'm not saying it just because I don't like them. Whereas the impression I'm getting from all these guys in the videos, and actually a little bit from Dwayne Jones and Banksy, is they think when it boils down, white people versus Jews versus blacks versus Arabs is going to be the end result. We're all just trying to nudge it along to get there. Like saying that thing about the black priest saying stuff about white guys. I mean, why does it matter what white guys and black guys and priests and what they say about each other? Surely we should be looking forward to the end result. What end result are we trying to get to, and why?
Exactly. And nobody engages their brain to even think like that. And that was my monologue at the beginning, was kind of in the beginning of this podcast. Like, I've made my peace with the left. I've made my peace with the fake right. I've made my peace with the globalists, with all these groups, because it's the people themselves that cause these problems. There's nothing that someone like me can say or do is going to change anything. All I'm going to do now, I'm just going forward. I just want to help people as much as I can with just everyday things, right? Because people don't even understand. Like, most of British people own at least one property, right? So they will never vote. They will never disrupt that, right? So average middle class owns 2 properties, right? And why would somebody that's put all their life savings and now their prosperity is based on those properties that they rent out on the line, just because some guy with a sweater says that we need to do X, Y, and Z against colored people? It's just absolute. It's just bananas. People will not even do that because people put their prosperity first and foremost. And secondly, I know people that, even working class people, are revolted by racist people, but because YouTube especially, but this speaker's corner type of community, it's an echo chamber, but not an echo chamber. It's echo chambers within a giant chamber, and people just seem to go to the groups that they want to go to, and there's no real discussion and debate like you and I are doing here. I mean, half the time on Discord, you and I, we don't even agree, or we disagree. But, I take that, I don't know how you take it, but I take that like, okay, well, I've got some friction here. What is going to be said? And, but that is not how the average person actually thinks. They want to go to the echo chamber and they just want to hear what they want to hear, so they feel good about themselves. And like Andrew in that interview said, what are you basing that on? What are you basing that on when he was talking about Tommy Robinson being rich, being this? Because, see, you haven't got any evidence at all. You just made assumptions. And
I think what it comes down to
at
is,
that point.
do you think people are capable of change, or do you think that they're just a write-off, and if they don't agree with you, you should just get rid of them? Like, that's the impression I get. With me, I think people are tough to change, but you can negotiate with people. They generally got a reasonable part to them. If you can find that, then you can have a discussion. But all these racist guys, they've already made their mind up. There's no changing anyone's minds. It's like, you can either agree with me now or get out. And it's fascism. They don't see it for what it is. It is literally fascism.
So we all want the world to be a better place, right? So we all have this inner feeling that we have lost something, that the world and politics and family life and social life and blah 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 has been better and should be better, but nobody knows exactly what that is. It's like this innate internal feeling, and all these different government styles, whether it's communism, whether it's royal dictatorship, military dictatorship, or democracy, and even religion to some point. These are different forms of people trying to get back of what I think was lost, which is best described in the book of Genesis, which is when humanity was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. In other words, that where God took care of humanity's needs, right? So humanity sinned and was kicked out and had to defend for itself. So all these things, innately, we are working towards a better system, because the system, no matter which one comes along, is never right. And even if it works for 5 minutes, for the remaining hours and days and months and weeks and years and decades and centuries, it's going to unravel and fall apart. So I just think as humanity, we're just trying to get back to God. We're just trying to, and we don't know it, where we just need to stop trying to fend for ourselves. You said something brilliant on Discord today. It was like, I don't want any of that weaponry stuff, because God's going to think I'm defending myself, and I'm, definitely not doing that. And those are such wise words, right? It's like, as believers, we already have, angels that are ready to guard us, ready to be sent down to defend us. Like, we don't need to.
Well, I just simplify it like this. If God wanted me to defend myself with sharp objects, I would have been born with swords sticking out my elbows. But I wasn't. I was born with a soft, fleshy body with a brain and a gob. So I'm supposed to talk my way out of things in an intelligent way, and not wave around a sword and shout Allahu Akbar or any dumb crap like that. So
yeah,
I mean,
you're made in the image of God. You're a creator, maybe not to the level of God, but we are a creator, and that's what we need to do. We need to create things and use creativity. But I don't think we are, as humanity, we're trying to reinvent a new system. I think the system is already there. We just need to allow God to take control, and He is chief commander, and we just need to realign ourselves with God, and everything else will be taken care of.
I can't believe how many people are being radicalized in the last few years. I mean, I'm reading the chat at the side, and I'm thinking Dwayne Jones / Banksy, which kind of almost seems like the same person, really. That to me is radicalization, saying, oh, fuck the rest of the world, it's all about Britannia. Well, think, okay, you're defined by your environment. So if Britain's perfect and the rest of the world's a bomb site, then eventually Britain's going to become a bomb site anyway, because it will become like its environment. So surely it's in your interest, yes, to prioritize your own country, but you can't just write off the rest of the planet.
So now they're accusing me of having what they're saying, my globalist
Yeah, they're throwing
attitude,
insults and name calling and
they're
stuff.
saying
Trying
you can't see how
manipulate
bad Britain is. Obviously, you haven't been watching my live streams, and I was the person with when I used to go to Tommy's demonstration. I was one of very, very few, if any, coloured people there. Very few of us used to be there. I used to be the one that did the live streams that interviewed on the streets right at the very, very beginning. I'm the one that took Speaker's Corner from the park and put it onto YouTube. I wasn't the only one. I had help from people like Raj Speaker's Corner as well. It's like, what have you been listening to me? I know how bad Britain have got, but do you think I'm going to become a demon and start hating people and being a racist as a Nazi? That's just, I fear God. My leader is God. My leader is not Adolf Hitler. I can't become a nasty piece of shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, too true. Yeah, it's just a shame. I think the internet has got a lot to answer for, but really, people have got to start taking responsibility for what they allow to develop in their own heads. Like, I mean, I could have done that. I could have gone super radical. People have accused me of that as well. I defend myself every day from that, but I'm not. I'm actually moderate. But these guys saying, "Oh yeah, f the rest of the world," because it only matters what happens in Britain.
You see, DC, can you see how this rhetoric, this extreme racist rhetoric, is now going to give power to an already overpowered state, police, kind of corrupt politicians? Can you see by what they're going to say? Look, we have proven that a large majority of the people are racist. Here's the chats. Here's the messages. Here's subscription to this party and blah blah blah. Now we need to protect the innocent. Do you understand? Can you see how it works? And this is what we're saying at the very beginning. As soon as they get enough people talking like Banksy and this Dwayne Jones is doing, I mean, I don't know Dwayne, I obviously know Banksy, and I know they're just misguided, but the people that follow that as a Steve Laws guy, they were actual racists, and there's no two ways about it. He thinks he's getting fame. Steve Laws thinks he's getting fame and he's going to get people behind him. He doesn't realize he's being promoted for a certain amount of time until such point where the establishment can see that there is enough of them in that pot to boil.
Yeah, I've got to say, the whole conversation just goes in the completely wrong direction for me. Like I say, I'm a guy that's all about an end result, a purpose. And my purpose can happen just as well with other countries doing well as it is right now. I mean, even saying things like, oh, look at the state of Britain. Britain's a terrible country. It's like, bruv, move abroad, live abroad for a year, then come back and tell me that it's crap here. It's like, we got our problems. We need to do a lot of work to make it better. But don't try and tell me that England isn't one of the best places on earth that you want to live in. Really. There's not many places that you would want to live in apart from here. And like for me, I have a serious medical complaint, which I pay nothing towards. The state pays for my entire medical bill. If I lived on any other country, I would not be able to afford to survive. I'd need thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds every single month. Now, I can whinge about the government, and I do. I don't like Starmer, Labour, the government. They got their problems. But at the very least, even though I hate them and crap on them every single day, they will continue to pay my medical bills. There's not a single other country in the world that will do that.
Yeah.
Not to mention the stuff that I get comes from Israel. So I can't very well say screw Israel when they're the ones making the stuff that keeps me alive every day.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why I don't have any issues paying taxes and what have you, because if you look at how many old people are out there and they have no income other than a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them don't have any income apart from state benefits. I mean, they wouldn't be able to
This
keep their-
Banksy guy's an idiot. You see daily, it's all about me, free stuff. Bruv, I worked for 35 years. I paid more in tax than you probably ever earned in your whole life. Why don't you get back in your hole, go and read a book and think about what you're saying? It's not about free stuff at all. If I wasn't getting offered that, I wouldn't be used to it. The fact that I'm getting offered it is a result of me having worked for my whole life and earned a lot of money and paid in happily so that other people can have that. That's the basis of democracy. If you don't like democracy, mate, why don't you move elsewhere?
The thing is, you can't take Banksy too seriously, because Banksy
I
is kind
don't.
of a troll,
absolutely
but not a troll. It's like love again. He's very much like the type of politician I was pointing out. They just want to talk about the problems, don't have any solutions. They don't have any anchor of any good thought process. It's just about problem after problem after problem, because they're just people like Banksy they're just feeding some kind of emotional loop over and over again, never working towards a better.
I think they just brainwashed themselves. I mean, look at this guy. I just came from Dubai. It's 1,000 times better. Well, why did you come back then? If it's so much better, why ain't you living there, mate? Exactly, because it's better here. You go there on holiday, then you get bored of it, and you come back to comfy old England. Exactly like I said. Why are you coming back to England? Because of free stuff. But it's not free, because you presumably had to go to work and earn and pay tax. You know, so did your parents. And that's what people do here. That's democracy. We don't have me attitudes. And that's the reason why nationalism is important. When people start taking a mick, i.e. when Islam comes over and starts trying to rob us blind, that's an issue that we can work together on. But that doesn't mean to say everyone that's Arab should be chucked out and treated like a criminal.
Yeah, we wouldn't have
some of these
anyone to
guys aren't
convert.
good doctors and nurses, and fair enough if they want to live here. You don't have to have been born here to live here. You just have to have our culture and know how to behave yourself. And all this rhetoric about people live here for free stuff and Britain sucks and Britain first, screw the rest of the world, it's all just complete nonsense. If you were in a situation where your neighbors are from other countries that you got on with and you knew they had good values, you would come to their aid if you're a decent moral person, whether they're Arabic or whether they're black or Jew. It doesn't matter. If they got a good cultural outlook, they follow the law and they contribute, then you will come to their defense if you are a good moral person. And it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are or what politics they got. I've got neighbors that are lefty vegans like I used to be, and I totally disagree with that. But you know what I do agree with? Their option to do that, because I believe people can change, and in the end, they'll get it right.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Jay Cahill. So that's the situation. I mean, so just to reiterate, my fear is that, as you've seen as well, there is a growing amount of extremism. People are being dragged into the WEF plan of making the world an angry place, and when people get angry, they go to their worst part of themselves. And I see people doing that, and they don't realize that people are only projected in front of you on media or any other channel in order to further a certain cause. And this racist agenda, I can see, and I'm confident that it will pan out like this, that as soon as they have enough following and the establishment can prove that there's a significant danger, as they'll call it, of extremism within the white community. They might even say the Christian community or whatever. They're going to then clamp down like you've never seen clamping before. This is the exact playbook that they will be using. Is obvious. Whenever tyranny of this nature comes knocking, this is the guise that it uses in order to further its cause. We've seen it over and over and over again, and I can't believe people are just falling for it.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks when you have people who will go on all day and all night about how they want to get rid of everyone who's not totally English, but then they go and watch Sky Sports, watch their football team, and it's like 70% foreigners. And it's like, well, you still cheer when those goals go in. You still collect on that bet you won when Man United lost 2-0. You weren't complaining about their ethnicity then. It's only now when you're on the spotlight, you got a bit of eyeball attention, I just get the feeling a lot of these people, they don't feel, they've got no importance. They want to be respected. They want to be feared. They want people to recognize them individually. And this is just a vehicle for that. But in practice, it just doesn't work. It's like me. Everyone knows how I feel about Islam. But when I meet Muslims or Arabic people who are not Muslims in the street, I give them a chance. I treat them the same as anyone else when I first meet them. It just so happens that Islamic people have always proven to be the same to me in the end. But I still give them the chance because people can change. It can surprise you. Whereas these guys, they're not assuming people can change. They're assuming that people have to be the same way they are now forever. And if they don't agree with me now, get them out. It's just ignorant. The end of the day.
So we've got a Nazi in the house under the handle of "It Is What It Is," and one of the comments he's made, and there's a series of complete low IQ stuff, but one of the comments he's made is "Bud, Manny, you're stuck with it, bud," right? Which is obviously a racist thing. I mean, if I
don't quit your day job,
don't quit your day job. But, you better hope nobody reports that to the police, or you'd be getting a knock on the door tomorrow morning, mate. How would you like that? But you see, I mean, I wouldn't do that. But this is what they're doing. This is how the cause, the Nazi low IQ cause is going to. This is what it's going to achieve. It's going to achieve total totalitarian, because that's what they are, that's what they want to see, and they are furthering the cause of the very same people that created and funded the Nazis, which was essentially the globalists. If you look at who funded the Nazis and who funded the Allies, it was the same group of people. In fact, we had some corporations that was paying both sides money, right?
Yeah, and let's not forget, the Nazis literally collapsed the world economy. There was a massive super inflationary what's it called? Credit crunch type thing. What's the word for it? Oh, God's sake. What's the word for it when the whole world's economy sucks? There's a word for it that I can't think of that.
Global depression.
But there's a word for it when the economy's super inflated.
Oh, inflation.
Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, that. And that this guy was saying earlier, what's the purpose in England if it's not to make a profit? And it's like, is that what your life is about? Your life is basically a shop. You just want to make a profit. Why do you want profit? What are you going to do with the profit? That's what I'm trying to get at. Is there's no point saying my life is about making profit unless you're going to use that profit to do something, make something, build something. That's what England should be about. For me, that's what England is about. It's not about we need to make money to give to someone else or to sit on. It's we need these things done. They require money. That's why we need profit. And then saying things like, football and other mundane crap's irrelevant. No, it's irrelevant to you because it doesn't suit your crappy little point, your little 2-degree wide point. But me mentioning that was part of a larger point, which I think I successfully made. And that is people don't complain about the things they're complaining about now in everyday life. It's only when it suits them, when they want to get attention, which is what I feel like this guy, Dwayne Jones, is doing. Making it about globalists and Jews and blacks. It's like just trying to get attention. He would never act like that in real life. We're down the pub. He'd never say that. He wouldn't dare. Not because he would get beat up, because he looked like an idiot.
So Banksy doesn't even get his terminology right. Boomers are baby boomers, which is what you're referring to, I think. That's a different generation altogether, Banksy. And plus, Banksy, I think you're older than me anyway. You're more of a boomer than me.
Well, he's right. If Daly was in his 20s, he'd be singing a different tune. I would, yeah, but I'd be singing a different tune if I was a 6-year-old. Guess what? Why? Because life experience and education goes up the further you go in life. The longer you're alive, the more you know. So yeah, at 20, I was probably a bit of an idiot, and I wouldn't have known to say those things. I would have disagreed with them. Then again, at 20, I was an atheist and a vegan and a lefty, which I think are idiotic positions now at 44. So it's cool. Like I was saying earlier, people change. You might be an idiot now, and in 2 years, you might be a fantastic person who really benefits the country. But if we throw you out now and we don't let you fulfill that potential, not only have we thrown out future progress, we've been assholes. Is that what we want people to see when they think English? No. All this stuff about boomers as well. Why don't we stop labeling each other these dickhead groups? It doesn't do any good.
So you say you are a boomer. That's what the kids call you. Get with the program. I don't want to listen to kids.
Yeah, I was going to say, who cares what the kids
man.
say? Kids can say what they like. It doesn't matter what kids say.
Exactly.
Honestly, this guy's got like 2 brain cells remaining. Come on, shake. Why don't you take your 2 brain cells, rub them together, see if you can generate a little electricity, get them working? It seems like they're not working that well.
But they're giving us content, and it is entertaining.
Yeah, fair enough.
I must admit, we can't be too
I'll
hard.
go back to my point though. These guys, right? The things they're saying in the chat are just off the cuff, kind of half insulting thing, not really thought through. If we were sat in a room and we actually met each other face to face, I guarantee you the conversation would not be going like this, because you'd have a little bit more thoughtful responses to give, and you'd be a little bit more respectful, and so would I. But that's what I'm saying is the things that I'm saying now, I'm not making them too sort of extreme sounding and radical sounding, because I'm leaving the door open for someone to say something which I have not thought of yet. Whereas what you're saying is you've thought of everything and you're 100% correct, and anyone who disagrees with you is basically a wrong boomer, idiot, Gen Z, Nazi, whatever other stupid label you're going to put on. It's just immature. Grow up with it.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, knowing Banksy, when he's face to face, Banksy's actually quite a nice guy. But
exactly, that's my point. So why are you being different online?
Yeah, on the internet, he's completely opposite.
Just
but
have a
when
little
you're
bit
face
of
to face with him,
authenticity
he's actually a pleasure to be around.
Well, I hope he's as authentic in the next chat as he is in real life, because so far I'm not impressed by this one.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. It's like it's 2 different personalities in text and online.
Yeah, one's real and the other one wants attention, so he's like being extreme on purpose. It's just daft.
But face to face, he's definitely he's a nicer guy. I don't know what goes on with him.
You say he's a nice guy, then he says, "How dare you? I'm nothing like that." Okay, you're not a nice guy then. You're an idiot. You choose. Choose your personality. Choose your destiny.
It is what it is, man. What can you do? Well, anyway, coming back to our conversation, I just think there is a rise of people being radicalized by these people. Liam Tuff and Andrew Gold of Heretics, they're not helping just to get a few clicks and getting some advertising income coming. They're giving these guys a platform, and it's just not helping. I think it's distracting people from a real cause, and if the closest that what we have to the actual cause is the one that Tommy Robinson is leading, and it's without any prejudice towards race, it's without any prejudice from anything that shouldn't be ignored. So I don't know what the situation is, because there was an article I read that these Nazi groups were using fake friendships on the internet to trap Tommy Robinson followers and make them into racist extremists, where one movement actually grew like that. And that was even
that does happen. I mean, I've had umpteen people contact me with clearly set up, like yesterday, fake accounts on Facebook trying to radicalize me because they know they can use me, but it doesn't work. But I think there's plenty of people who that kind of thing does work with, and that's what we're seeing. All these people that have these radical extremist online views, when you meet them in the pub, they're completely different. It's because they've been stooged out to say that. They've not thought that through. Someone's gave them a really rousing speech and they've picked that up as their own personality. It's like, that's not you. You've just been told to say that.
And
I think if people were a bit more authentic, we'd have less extremism. We'd have more answers to real extremism like Islam, and we'd have less less arguments between people who really should be on the same side. See, look at this idiot. How much does hope not hate pay you? That sounds just like dickhead Islam when they say, how much does Mossad pay me? Bruv, sort your life out, please. Why are you wasting time saying things like, how much does hope not hate pay you? Then I could just say to you, well, how much does hope not hate pay you? You're a plant. You're using a fake account. Dwayne Jones is your second fake account to make it look like someone agrees with you. But ultimately, you're wrong. No one agrees with you. And you're just an inauthentic liar. I could do that to you. But where does it get us? Nowhere. So I'm not going to do that.
I don't know why Banks is acting so low IQ. He's kind of embarrassing me.
Embarrassing himself, mate. He's not embarrassing you.
And then he's saying at one, he made a comment here about saying these lot are yesterday's these lot are yesterday, Steve is the future. So a Nazi is the future. I mean, I'm so glad that StreamYard actually does this show comments on stage thing, because once they put something in there, it's instantly showed.
Yeah, it's,
because
it's there.
everything's
You're not
recorded.
taking that back now.
Absolutely. It's like, just stop. Just stop the alcohol. Just stop any narcotics you're taking. Just stop. Just behave. Just think. Just engage your brain before you type, because once it's on the internet, it's on the internet.
The thing that does my head right is if you say to someone, you know, the Salem witch trials, burning people at the stake, did you think that was a great idea? Did you think that was really moral and useful and beneficial to the country? 0% of people will say yes. But what they're suggesting is basically the same. That's what Steve was saying. We should go house to house with pitchforks, kick out everyone who doesn't look like me and agree with me. That's what you're saying. And then when I disagree with you, I'm part hope, not hate. It's like, come on, engage your brain, mate.
How many times have I said on Discord that an ex-Muslim is never an ex-Muslim unless he meets Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And can you see, like, Banksy's is Iranian and he's an atheist, but can you see, he's saying Steve is the future. Like Steve Law's that racist guy.
I like it. Who do you say is the future? I say Jesus is the future. Who does he say is the future? Steve.
but can you see how true my statement is? Like, there's no such thing as an ex-Muslim. When a Muslim becomes an ex-Muslim, all that means is he's just one step away from being activated. A normal Muslim is not activated, and a radicalized Muslim is activated. Those are the 3 stages of being a Muslim, from my understanding. Now, if they have the good fortune of discovering life and discovering future and discovering God, then yeah, fine. We know from people like Hatun, they achieve amazing things, and we love them for that. However, just being an ex-Muslim, and these people are just crazy. They're no different from radicalized Muslims half the time.
Well, you got guys like Apostate Prophet. Who's that? Mossab, the son of Hamas, that guy. You know who I'm talking about? He was like the son of a prominent terrorist dude, and he became a Christian, started working for... he worked for Shin Bet or Mossad or someone like that against Muslims. Now, people say he's extreme. He's an extremist. He's been radicalized. But he's come from the other side of being radicalized into Islam. And now he's radicalized against Islam. So plenty of people will say he's like that. He's being radicalized one side to the other. But I think what that shows is he knows how deep that particular rabbit hole goes. And he is taking it personally to end that. He doesn't want that to be the world. And I can respect that. So even though he was he was a Muslim and he's Arabic. So you would think a guy like me would not like him. But it's like, no, his cultural approach is very similar to what I think I have. So it doesn't matter where he came from, what religion he came from, or even what religion he's gone to, although he is a Christian now. The fact is, he got a good head on his shoulders, and he's looking to the future rather than looking back, trying to punish people for not being the same. He's saying people can change, and he's given a game plan for them. This is how you change. But it's a shame not many other people are willing to do that. You want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. If you don't agree with me today, then you're in the bin.
Yeah, it's worrying. People don't think. That's the conclusion I've come to recently. That people actually don't think. They do a lot of things. They worry. They get anxiety. They kind of throw a strop and all these other things. But they don't actually sit down and think and calculate and assess. They seem to just want to be like this placid jellyfish without any structure and just be willingly pulled and pushed here or there depending on who they're listening to and who they're being inspired to. If everybody or even half the population just stopped and just get a pen and paper out saying, let me just assess this, like we assess a business before we buy it, or like we assess a case study before we learn it for an exam, or assess a situation before we write a thesis on it, or a book on it, or whatever. Nobody actually does that. They just You know, I came across a study recently. I should have posted it in Discord actually. That people growing up now are going to be so bad with money, just on the basis that people no longer understand how to balance what they refer to as balancing the checkbook. Do you know, like, so when you balance a checkbook, it's like having a ledger, right? Money coming in, money going out, and it all has to tally up. People, young kids, they don't do that. And they're saying it's not just like the working class, children of single parents or children living in council estates or anything like that. They're saying even middle class children cannot balance checkbook, and that's so important, because what is the most motivating thing that covers everything? Money. People want
I think, you know what, you hit the nail on the head there. People are so disaffected, they're pissed off because they don't have enough money, they don't have enough stuff, and that then they think, well, it must be the country that's at fault then. Like this Dwayne Jones guy whinging on about me, I don't understand this, I don't understand that, I'm a lost cause. Basically, I'm happy with my life, I've got a good income, a nice house, good family. I don't see that this country is going down the pan. I don't see that my race is dying out, and I've got a good life. He seems to me like a person who's got a terrible life, not enough money, doesn't get along with his friends and family, and is pissed off because he's got no future. That's not other people's fault, mate. That's your fault. Sort your own life out before you start looking at other people's. I wouldn't be sat here whinging about Islam unless my life was sorted out, because I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. It looks like you're just disaffected with your own life and you want to blame it on someone else.
And I know you and I differ on the meaning of when Jesus said, "And these things shall be given unto you." So these things, what are these objects, right? So my understanding is that the purpose of that was that you become a true believer, and all these things will be given unto you, and that exactly. What happens, your everyday things that you need or require will appear when you need them, right? And this
Amen. That's exactly what I love about Christianity. Since the day I did my first prayer, I've had everything I've ever wanted and more. I've got so much stuff, I don't know what to do with it. I'm constantly giving away money, constantly giving away time, constantly doing things for other people for absolutely no reward, and I can't give away money quick enough. That's how God works. So I'm trying to say to these guys, oh yeah, it's all about profit. What's the point if you're not making profit? I don't ever have to think about profit or loss. All I have to think about is not wasting money on smoking, drugs, drinking, throwing my lifetime and my money away. I just plow myself into like Christian causes. Effectively, that's what I spend my life doing. And because I do that, God gives me everything that I need. So I'm happy. And I don't think the country's a write-off. I don't think it's foreigners' fault that I didn't have a good day today or that I can't afford a Ferrari. But I feel like this guy, if he actually zoomed out, his problems are not nearly as bad as he thinks. And they're not the country's problems, they're his problems. And if he just concentrated on solving his own problems, suddenly Britain don't seem so bad.
And I'll say this to add on to that. I don't earn even a quarter of some of the sums that I've earned over the previous years. But these days, everything seems to go so much further. I'm actually more prosperous now, and like you, DC, my primary objective is how am I serving my community? How am I serving others? How am I helping others? And
exactly. And you know what? I reckon that's half of your profit motive, because you're thinking in terms of how can I use my money to help other people. So you've got a profit motive, and you need, suddenly it means something to you to not waste money because you're using your money for a good Christian purpose. That's what that David guy earlier, he was going, oh, it's all foreigners' fault, the country's falling apart. And I was saying he doesn't have a purpose. If he had a good Christian purpose, it could be charity, it could be anything. That would be the thing that drove him to stop drinking, wasting his money on drugs, whinging, worrying about foreigners and politics. He'd be doing something useful. And that'd be the reason why he'd save money and start being good with money. And that'd be the reason he'd have money. But I just don't really feel like enough people get that. And what doesn't help is they spend 99% of their free cycles of their brain worrying about all this pointless internet stuff. To be good with money, you need to have a clear brain. You need to have good recall of memory. You need to have your wits about you to remember all that stuff, because it's complicated. So if you're worrying about conspiracy the whole time, 99% of your brain's eaten up by that. You're not going to be good with money. You're going to get depressed and stressed. You're going to start smoking and doing drugs. And you're going to say the country sucks and it's somebody else's fault.
And just going back to what we were just saying a few minutes ago, one of the biggest changes is, you see, when I'm buying something, setting something up now, or kind of achieving something, I'm not doing it for myself, and I'm doing it for I'm doing it for the world, or doing it for God, right? And I've noticed that when I ask for assistance from God, it comes. Like, literally, you could see it in real time sometimes, that God is helping, like things just happen and that type of thing. And what is the difference? Like I was saying, I've had more income than I have before, but it hasn't gone anywhere near as far. I haven't been able to achieve the goals, and so on and so forth. The difference is that I'm not doing it for myself. It's not for my personal gain. I'm doing it for the greater good. I'm doing it for God's wills, to use a biblical term. And as a consequence, when you do align, I will say this wholeheartedly with a hand on my heart, when you align your plans and your objective with God's plans, then miracles do happen.
Absolutely agree. All this stuff about the country falling over and having to improve it, why would you care what the country looks like past the end of your own life? The only reason I care what the country looks like past the end of my own life is because the generation behind me are going to have to live in it. So the mess that I make, they're going to live in. And not only that, they're going to have to be cleaning it up for their kids. So that's the reason I care about my surroundings, the other countries in the world, and, the lefties and the boomers and the Gen Zs and all these other people that are not me. I still care about all those people, even Muslims that I want to get rid of out of this country. Still kind of care about them, because at the end of the day, they might change their mind, and my kids might be living with their kids, going to school with their kids. They might be in a war together and they might have to defend each other. I don't know. But if I start chucking people out and judging them, then in future that war is going to be against them, but I'll be dead. It'll be my kids that have to pick up the slack, and I don't want that.
And also, it's God, it's the Bible that made this country what it is, or this Europe what it is.
Well, that's Genesis verse 1-8, isn't it? Or not 1-8. It's a bit past that, where God says, "Be fruitful, go forth and multiply." Tend a walled garden so that your kids can be happy in it. It's exactly what we're talking about. Past the end of my life, the mess that I leave is going to be what my kids have to live in. So if I don't act accordingly now and show them a good example, then they're going to have a terrible, depressing existence and probably not last very long. That'd be my fault. But guys like, Dwayne Jones and Banksy, it's all about me, me, me. It's the opposite of what they're saying. They're not thinking about the future. They're just thinking about what they can get now for themselves. I really hope that changes. Whether they want to admit that or not, that's how it looks.
It's a very materialistic thought process.
It's just short-sighted, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. All right, I think we've done a good session here. 2 hours 20 minutes. That's not bad going, mate. Actually, I want to thank, as annoying as they've been, I want to thank Banksy, Dwayne, and that other Nazi that was in the chat. I want to thank them for giving us entertainment and and reason to talk for as long as we did.
Well, to be fair to these guys, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. Obviously the chat was a little bit kind of spicy at various points, but I mean, like what you were saying, we don't always agree in Discord. We have big blazing rows, but the fact is, I have to respect someone enough to have a blazing row with them, and that's part of the democratic process of being able to shout at someone, disagree, then shake hands afterwards. So we can continue doing that. That's a very good start. And in fact, that's one of the reasons I don't like Muslims, because they are incapable of doing that. If they could do that, well, there's a conversation to be had there if they can ever do that. But as long as we keep doing it, I think the future's good.
Indeed. All right, Daily COVID, thank you very much for coming on. It was nice talking to you, bro.
Yeah, always a pleasure, mate. Have a good night. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one.
God bless, mate. All right, thank you, everybody. I am going to play a video on the way out. Thank you very much for watching, commenting. If you can like and share, or just like on your way out, that'd be absolutely fantastic. See you all soon.